Victory for homeowners today from the U.S. Supreme Court, especially for seniors.
Brian Master reports the court's ruling has far-ranging implications, including here in Nebraska.
The case before the U.S. Supreme Court centered on 94-year-old Geraldine Tyler. The Minnesota woman fell behind on her taxes when moving into a retirement home. The county sold her place and kept the $25,000 profit. Today, in a unanimous decision, justices ruled it violated her constitutional rights of the government taking more than what is owed.
Have you spoken with Ms. Tyler?
Yes.
What'd she say?
She's very happy about what this means for property owners everywhere, but especially for seniors who would otherwise be put out on the streets because they not only lose their home, but they lose all their life savings in it.
The same thing happened to Kevin Fair of Scottsbluff, Nebraska. He owed $588 in back taxes on his home after his wife got sick. Private investors paid off 3 years of taxes plus interest and can now sell it and keep the profits.
They're going to stand to make the money, and I won't have nothing.
The Nebraska Supreme Court had ruled that it was okay, but their decision is now in jeopardy after the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling today.
We're hoping what this case means for Mr. Fair is that he too will get just compensation for his home equity.
Kevin Fair is still living in his Nebraska home, even though he doesn't own it. It's valued at $60,000.
Obviously, we feel like we were on the right side of history. And it's
Senator John Kavanaugh of Omaha has a bill awaiting final approval in the Nebraska legislature. It would end the practice of private investors keeping all the profits. Investors would still get 14% interest on the back taxes and fees, and county treasurers would still fill their coffers, but the profits would go to the original homeowner.
To punish particularly disproportionately the elderly and taking away their savings is obvious that we shouldn't be doing that. And so it's a shock that it's taken this long to get to this point to fix this.
On your side in Omaha, Brian Mastery, 6 News.
Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the unanimous decision regarding the Minnesota woman who lost her $40,000 home to pay a $15,000 debt. In it, he said the taxpayer must render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but no more. The court decision clears the way for the woman to seek compensation in the lower courts and strikes down similar laws like Nebraska's.
Also at the Supreme Court today, the justices cut back on the EPA's ability to regulate wetlands under the Clean Water Act. The move rolls back federal safeguards in a long-running dispute between the government and a couple